Welcome to Alex and Annie. I'm Alex.
And I'm Annie.
And we are the Real Women of Vacation Rentals. We are here today with Jim Devos from Beach Getaways in Panama City Beach, which is also where Annie is located. Jim, welcome to the podcast.
Well, thank you, Alex and Annie. Welcome. I appreciate the opportunity to be here.
Yeah, we're so excited to have you. Annie, do you want to get started with some questions? I know you know Jim personally and professionally, so you've got a little bit of history there to start diving in.
Yeah, so I thought actually, Jim, if maybe you can kind of give us a 30,000 foot view of your experience, your career. We were just talking about it earlier. It's pretty vast and it's done a little bit of everything, but it's obviously led you to where you are today.
Sure. Happy to do that. Oddly enough, my first job really coming out of the military, my first job was in the military. Coming out of the military, that was being a travel agent. And early in my career, I also got involved then in charter airline sales and group vacation sales in the tour operator business.
Interesting.
So after about 6 years of doing that, I actually was recruited into the advertising agency world to work on an airline. And I knew a lot about the airline industry because of my background, but really nothing about advertising itself. So really for like the next 17 years or so, I became an ad guy. And when I started that career, I really got to see the tail end of the Mad Men kind of life of an advertising agency executive, 3 martini lunches and so forth. Not me personally, because I couldn't handle 3 martinis, but the people that I hung out with.
Why don't we just bring those back?
Yeah, really, exactly. It was fun.
I missed them completely.
Of course, the memory gets a little foggy after a couple of martinis. So
yeah,
I don't know what happened.
Did you get those contracts signed, right?
Yeah, well, you did, exactly. So although I really was never very good at holding up my end of that discipline. But from there, I went to work on the client side, and I headed up. And actually, when I was in the advertising agency business, I also worked on a variety of different brands. I worked on some hotel brands, worked on airlines, worked for a number of packaged goods, Procter and Gamble companies, and that sort of thing as an advertising and strategy guy. Yeah. And actually, one of my clients recruited me to take over the marketing department for a food service management conglomerate. And I did that really for about 15 years or so before my business partner in Beach Getaways, who actually used to be my boss, and I started Beach Getaways about 13 years ago.
Wow.
It was really what really led us into this business was my partner had retired from the company that we were both working at, and he started acquiring vacation rental properties, and he started digging into the vacation rental industry, and he hired and subsequently fired a number of vacation rental management companies. And while I was still actually head of marketing and strategy for this food service management conglomerate. And he came to me and he said, we could do this better. And I said, what do you mean? And he said, and he started to recount the horror stories of dealing with some of the people in our industry back 13 years ago, and 14 years ago. And so he said, so we sat down and we looked at what we could do differently. What would that model look like? And could we really do something successfully? And so with that in mind, we went to market in 2008. And in our first year in the business, due to our aggressive and, may I say, brilliant marketing approach, we had over 100 properties signed in the first 90 days of existence.
Wow.
Yeah. Wow. And that caused us to consider ourselves just an overnight success.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. Wow. But then reality sunk in. And
because it was 2008, 2009.
Yeah.
Well, there's that. Yeah, we opened the doors right during the recession. Good move.
Yeah.
but we also hadn't done a terribly good job on the operations side of really putting the right people and processes in place. And frankly, we lost about 2/3 of the business that we had signed on
Wow.
because frankly, we didn't do a good job.
Wow.
And that's what it was like really the first 3 or 4 years of our business. We were running the business remotely. I was in Atlanta, he's in Atlanta, and we had a director running the operation down here. And it just, there's something about this business that at the end of the day, what it really is an entrepreneurial business, and it's a local business.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. So my partner and I said, one of us has really we've either got to sell this thing, close this thing, or one of us has got to go run this thing. And he had little kids in school, couldn't do it. So I said, well, all of my kids are grown, so why not? Living at the beach is not a bad duty.
Right.
So
especially compared to Atlanta.
Yeah, really.
No offense to Atlanta, but
well, now, oddly enough, we relocated to Panama City Beach, and I worked out of our office on 30A, and I'd have some of my colleagues call me and say, "Well, how is it?" And the reality is, from where we lived, my commute to my office on 30A was about the same length as my commute from my home to my office in Atlanta. The only difference was the scenery was way better.
oh gosh, yeah.
Yeah. So, long story short, I think where we are right now is we've grown to about 460 properties. We've got 4 offices,
Wow.
and we've got a great tenured management team. Our average tenure, now we've been in business now for 13 years. Our average tenure is about 9.5 years,
Wow.
which I think in this business, I think is almost unheard of.
Yeah.
And to be honest with you, we wouldn't be where we are if we didn't have the team that we have.
Yeah.
They're completely committed. They're process oriented and driven, and they're constantly looking for ways to make things better. Now, I want to roll back to one thing, and that's that I think what we've done at Best Beach Getaways, if you walked into our office in Panama City Beach, one of the first things that you would see is a gigantic 4x6 vinyl wall covering on our entrance wall that says Team BBG. And that's the way everybody thinks here.
Yeah.
It's just, we've got a great culture, and I'm proud of that. I'm proud of the people that we have on the team for that very reason.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, you've got such a recipe of success there that we can kind of unravel here. I'm not even sure where to begin. There's so many good things in that, but yeah, in the time that I've known you, Jim, I can definitely tell you do have a great team, and that your team has that entrepreneurial spirit. All of them do, because, trying to make things better. I know you've done a lot of software initiatives on your own.
Yeah.
And that's kind of a common theme that Annie and I have been recognizing among some of the people that we've talked to recently that have become very successful, is that they are ending up developing their own platforms and technologies to fit the needs of specifically of what their business uses. And I think where that connects the dots with the employees and why you have such little turnover is you're giving them the tools that they need to succeed, and you're not forcing something down their throats that is not really meant for your business. And I think we see that pretty commonly now, that when staff members are leaving, they're not happy with what they're having to do, and the tools that they have to do it, and the lack of training, and it just creates a bad inner office atmosphere there. But when you're actually listening to what people need, and you're developing what's going to make their job easier, it's easier to keep people to stay. And Condo World, we're very similar to that. We have our own software and several other systems in place that we've developed. And I would imagine our tenure is about the same as that. I've been here for 12 years. Our CTO has been here for about the same amount of time. And, it's everybody's been here on the executive team and actually the reservationist for quite a long time. But, just having that right mentality, that sets the stage for how the whole business operates. So.
Oh yeah, you bet. It's funny. You talk about software, and one of the things that we did and we've done is we knew we needed to develop our own software, and we want to get to a complete system. But the way we started was we started kind of from the ground up. We built it. We describe it almost as a skyscraper, and we're building it one floor at a time.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's really kind of the way we've done it. And the thing that I like about what we've done, when I was this is sort of off track, but maybe not. When I was in the advertising agency business, one of my clients was a car company, and it was a British car company. And what I discovered in my experience was that the best cars in the world are designed by the British or the Italians, and they are engineered by the Japanese. Okay.
Mhm.
The car company that I was working on actually was the reverse. It looked like it was designed by the Japanese and engineered by the Brits.
Oh,
And
wow.
so,
Yeah, reverse execution does not work.
Exactly. But one of the things that when I looked at a lot of different software platforms, what I saw was they were designed and engineered by technology people, not people in our business.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
you got to have the software engineers, no
Yeah.
question about it.
Yeah.
They've got to do the engineering. But what you need is the experienced people in our
Yeah.
business
Right.
really doing the design.
The
That's such a
day-to-day
great
users.
analogy.
Yeah, that's
on the
true.
cars.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
perfect. I need to remember that one. That's spot on.
Yeah, that car was a horror story, but yes,
Yeah.
but it's a great way to look at things, you know?
Yeah.
Well, there's a
Yeah.
lot of software that's a horror story too.
Oh
so-
yeah, yeah. I'm sure we've all had some of it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
More than our fair share, I'm sure.
And yeah, you raised one of the things that you raised, Alex, that it's a funny aside story. One of our operations managers, who's really been with us now 7 or 8 years, started with us as an inspector, then became a property manager. Now she's one of our operations managers. And about 2 years ago now, she was getting married. She's and she was concerned about the amount of time commitment that she had, and because she had a new family, new husband, new stepchildren, she felt like she needed to really reduce the amount of involvement that she had in business. And another rental management company had come to her and said, well, look, we will pay you more money, and we will reduce your span of control. You'll only have to manage X number of properties. So we sent her, we said, listen, if that's what you need to do, we love you. We'd love to keep you, but everybody has to make their own personal decisions. So we had a goodbye lunch with her and said, listen, if you ever need anything, please come talk to us. So 2 weeks later, she calls my director of operations and says, have you filled my job?
Mhm.
And he said, well, why? And she said, I want to come back. And he said, well, why?
Yeah. Yeah.
She said, because I can do more with your software and processes
Yeah.
for a wider base of business than I
Yeah.
can do for about 25% of the span that she had
Right.
without the tools that we have.
Yeah.
So so it was the productivity level in terms of what we've done is just really
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
very pleased with where it's going. Yeah.
Equipping your people with the right tools. I think that's just a common, theme that we keep hearing and people that we're interviewing. And it's very interesting. Very interesting.
So with your software, and I know that you're planning at some point to kind of take it to market.
Sure.
You're working on it still. Where are you at with it now, and what do you ultimately see it doing? I think when we initially talked to you, or I know since I've known you a couple of years, it started out as a housekeeping maintenance function, correct?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so where is it kind of morphed into, and where do you see it ultimately going?
It's ultimately the ultimate thing is something, actually, Andy, you and I think I'd seen something that you posted on LinkedIn. I can't remember now, but you had said something about coming out of the VRMA, which, by the way, I didn't go to because I think I've told you I hate going to those things.
We missed you.
But I
I was hoping we'd see
probably
you at the
should.
next one at least.
But I probably should have been there.
You probably should.
Yeah, and so I said that to my business partner. He said, "Yeah, you should have gone. What's the matter with you?"
It's in Vegas next year. You can go.
Oh, I'll go. Oh, yeah.
Nobody can pass that up.
Fantastic. Oh, I'll tell you some Vegas stories.
Yeah.
But you had said something about people in our industry looking for the singular solution,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
That's what we're building, is the singular solution
Okay.
that carries it all the way from reservation management, channel management, accounting, integrated accounting. Sorry about that. Integrated accounting. So yeah, it's going to
You're
be
trying
the
to
one.
put me out of business is what you're trying to say.
Yeah, sort of. But the good news is I've got a home for you.
Well, okay. You heard it, Alex. If anything,
There we go. Connecting the dots.
Right.
Doing your best. Oh, that's funny. Yeah.
So you ultimately think that, and that, I think that was a question in going into Vermin, coming out of it, and it raises a comment. I believe it was Carl Shepard, who used to be head of HomeAway. He was one of the fireside chats. And I think one of the things that he said was that companies, when they start to get up to 1,000 units, they really need to develop their own platform and software and technology stack to be able to handle all the things that they're going to do that they've customized and touted as their differentiators along the way. So my thought was anybody really, do all in one? I mean, I know that some of like Vacasa as an example, they have a really large technology stack, but they still use some other people in the industry because they just haven't figured out everything.
Well, here's the thing about all that. Okay. And you picked the perfect example in my mind, Vacasa. Okay. You've got somebody there who is the darling. This is going to sound bad, so sorry about that. Who is the darling of the investment community, right?
Yeah.
They throw money at that thing like they're sailors on Liberty.
Their software better be good. They've got plenty of money to fund it.
And nobody talks about profit, margin, efficiencies, productivity, and I think. And to be honest with you, when I think about the business, and I'm just sort of thinking back here and having talked to a variety of different people in the business and actually having acquired a number of them, nobody talks about profitability and managing margin and looking for multiple streams of income and managing those streams. And I come from. My last 15 years in business was in the food service management world. Our entire existence was built upon the idea of managing pennies. I mean, it was managing pennies. And so one of the things that I think when I think about our product, our software product, is we are going to be able to help rental management companies when we get there. We're going to be able to help them manage their business better and manage better productivity and improve margins. Right. And I think that's what the single solution really is about.
Yeah. And you're so right on that. And I think, it comes down to the businesses like yours and like ours that were built on that true entrepreneurial spirit, when they first started, that finding those additional revenue streams. Yes, that is 100% important. Increasing margins. Yes, that can be a game changer for a business. And that follows right in line with, revenue management and how much that has really transformed our industry over the last 5 years. Of you can make more money with less property if you're properly managing that revenue, right? And I know you guys are excellent at using revenue management down there, but it's interesting when you look at Vacasa. It is, there's a reason why we're all just kind of mystified by them, because it's operated so completely different that Simon Lehman had Matt Roberts on stage at VRMA for one of his fireside chats, and Matt came straight out and said they're not worried about profitability. I mean, they're doing what they're doing, and they're trying to go
Yeah.
public, and that's just not what they are choosing to do. But time will tell, I guess. But it's unusual for companies like ours that operate very differently. But I mean, entrepreneurial and local, those are the two things that you said come to mind for vacation rentals.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
that's so true. I mean, that's the experience that we're able to give our guests and our homeowners is just different, I feel like, than a Vacasa can give as a national company that, they are very regimented in the processes and the software that they have to use and everything else. But we are all truly entrepreneurs at heart. So it's a different mindset.
Well, the business, here's the thing. At the end of the day, it's somebody, them, Airbnb, and I don't want to throw rocks at Vacasa. I mean, they've got, I know a lot of people who work for them. I think they're good people. You have getting to sort of the esoteric level. It's really just studying the business model. And you look at the business model, and the question I always ask myself, is that a model that can sustain?
Right. Yeah.
Right. And so let me shift away from Vacasa. Let's talk about Airbnb for a minute. Okay. They've been in business for as long as I've been in business. Okay.
Yeah.
They've yet to make their first dollar.
Yeah.
Okay. So there's something, there's something fun to me. There's something fundamentally flawed with the whole concept of, oh, I'm just going to go to the investment community and I'm going to get them to throw a bunch of money at me.
Yeah.
I just, now you need it. I would like, we've done, a lot of what we've done growth wise. When I came to the Panhandle in 2012, we had 109 properties. We got 460 now.
Yeah, no, that's huge growth.
Yeah, a lot of that was acquisition. Okay.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons why we've been able to acquire so well is because we manage our margins. We just I'd like to take all the credit for that since I'm on the podcast.
Yeah.
But I really can't. My business partner is an operations guy.
Yeah.
And he's taught me so much about how you manage operations and how you manage margin.
Yeah.
And he grew, I mean, you talk about varied backgrounds. He started working in kitchens, then he went to work in Howard Johnson's years and years ago.
Yeah.
And he worked for Sbarro, the Italian
the pizza
mall
place.
the pizza place.
Yeah.
He worked for a company that owned Gino's East in Chicago. I mean, so he came up in that pennies business.
Yeah.
And so we, by virtue more of him than me, we run the business like it's a pennies business.
Yeah.
And I think if you do that, then you can pay your people well.
Yeah.
You can acquire. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of things that you can do to really make a place that attracts people.
Yeah, that is a good point. I mean, you're able to pay people, and that you get people to stay that way too. I mean, it's a different approach, but the right approach as far as I'm concerned.
Well, yeah.
So, kind of on the topic of, we won't talk about the Vacasa, like Airbnb, that type of thing. But in general, a lot of talk has been in the last year, and I think COVID exacerbated the ability to do this was acquisition. And so I know you are one of the few that did acquisitions right prior to COVID. And it turned out to
we're so smart.
It turned out to be a blessing, and it worked.
Oh yeah.
There was obviously quite a few people that it was not good. So what do you see within the, and I think the Panhandle has been like a target for some of these groups to come in and try to acquire businesses. I mean, we know Vacasa has done it. We know that Steve Milo with his B-Trips has done it. So I think that there's a lot of people that are looking in this region because there's a lot of inventory. What is your take on acquisitions? And do you think that that's the way to grow, or you think that you should do it organically?
Yes and yes.
Okay.
The thing about, it's like when my sons were young, they're not anymore. In fact, my oldest son just got his AARP card. How about that? So yeah, we mock him regularly about that. When my sons were growing up, and I coached a lot of football because they were all football players. They loved playing football. So I did a lot of coaching. And one of the things that you always look for in football is you look for the opportunity to create chunk plays, right? Not 3 yards in a cloud of dust, but 15 yards, 20 yards, 25 yards. That's what an acquisition is. An acquisition is a chunk play.
Yeah.
Right.
That's true.
So you have to be able to you have to want to be able to do those if you really want to grow to be some reasonable size.
Yeah.
But you also, you've got to be out there organically as well. And so you're constantly balancing acquisition with organic growth. Now, the thing about acquisition is this: if you don't do the acquisition correctly, you are going to lose some of the value that you were acquiring in the first place. Because at the end of the day, every acquisition, the value of our company, by the way, the value of our companies in the vacation rental industry is quite simply the contracts we have.
Yes.
I mean, it's the used desks, the laptop computers, and a truck or two.
Yeah,
That's what we
yeah.
got.
Yeah.
So you've got to be really careful when you do an acquisition about, number one, making sure that you pro forma it correctly, that you go in and say, okay, you get as much detail about what their performance. You look at how you apply your business model, and you say, can I the way we look at it is, if I can't make more, then it's probably not a good acquisition. Right. So you have to look at the acquisitions that way, number one. Number two, you have to see if the people that are part of that organization are going to be a cultural fit. Are they going to fit? If they don't, then you're going to lose them. And it's the people who make up the relationships with the owners. So,
and you can't afford to do that, right? Yeah.
Well, and I think it comes down to, in the simplest terms, when you acquire a business, you're either acquiring it for the product, for the properties, or for the people and the assets that they might have. So, and we've done kind of a hybrid of the two. Prior to COVID, and it was November of 2019, we bought Condo Lux, which was our largest competitor for over 30 years. And they on their side, they sold at the perfect time, because if they had waited a few months and tried to sell it, literally the whole thing would have been going down in a fireball, and they wouldn't have been able to sell it. I mean, we would have just picked up the inventory, but so they sold at a good time. But we also, part of that buy was not for there's a couple people, I think 2 people maybe we kept. It was very minimal, but they had an incredible digital presence. They had great inventory in all the buildings that we were in, and they had a gorgeous office building, which we needed at the time. And that there's some of the other companies looking at buying them, nobody needed an office as badly as we did. So that worked out perfectly. But then fast forward July of 2020, during the pandemic, we didn't acquire another company, but it was almost more or less given to us that they were really going down in flames, and there was nothing really to sell, but we basically assumed the rental contracts and paid them out the remainder of what they had fulfilled. But 2, completely different acquisitions. In that one, we couldn't really be as picky up front about the inventory. We just had to get a hold of it. And then we said, okay, this part of the inventory is going to work, this part is not. But ended up getting a couple really great people from that company. So, picked up some good units and got some good people, but it was a smaller, kind of transition there or transaction, but worked out well. But it's vacation rental acquisitions are definitely interesting. And when you talk to people outside of our industry, they're like, what are you buying? I mean, you're essentially buying air. I mean, you're buying
contracts. That's all you're buying. That's it.
People can leave your program and you've got nothing. So you better make those people happy.
Yeah, that's it. One of the things I did, now one of the things that, again, you mentioned early on, I've had a lot of variety in my background.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
when I was with the food service management company, we were a publicly held company, but we were in an acquisition mode as well. So we were going in, probably in the span of about 5 years, we acquired four fairly large companies and one small. All of them were smaller than we were, but some of them were of consequence. And the business, by the way, is very similar because it was a contracts business.
Yep.
It's food service management. You're typically managing a food service operation inside of either a company like Microsoft. We had Microsoft as one of our clients, or inside of a hospital. You're doing retail and patient feeding. So it's a contract driven business. After about five acquisitions and half of them went really well. The other half were pretty bumpy. Because I was the head of marketing and strategy for the company, they said, "Hey, we want you to dig into these acquisitions, and we want to have a lessons learned out of that. We want to understand understand the acquisition." And so there was. I interviewed senior leaders from the companies, the acquired companies, and talked to them about, okay, tell me about the acquisition from your perspective. How did you find out about it? What did it mean? What did it do to you? What did it mean to you? What worked from your perspective, and what did we screw up from your perspective? And it was really an interesting exercise. In fact, I wrote basically a guidebook for how you acquire for this company, and they use it today, 15 years later.
Wow.
And one of the first thing that I discovered was it's the first thing you have to deal with as the acquirer is the me issues of the employees.
Yes.
Now, in our business, it isn't just the me issue of the employees, it's the me issues of the contracts as well.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's the first thing you have to do. Second thing you have to do, I describe, you talk about, do you take the Band-Aid off quickly or slowly?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You take it off quickly in the acquisition.
Yes.
You make the transition very fast.
Yeah.
Because if you don't, it creates all kinds of problems in terms of cultural fit, in terms of associate retention, all of that.
Yeah.
So acquisitions are, they can be incredibly successful or they can be terribly miserable. And by the way, we've acquired 7 or 8 companies.
Wow.
Since 2013.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Most of them have gone really well. 2 of them have gone very badly.
Yeah.
And it was
what was the characteristic?
Yeah. What did you learn from that, I guess?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. The first thing, one of the ones that went very badly, that was probably the worst. It was one that we bailed. It was basically, if you don't pay my owners this month, I'm going to go to jail, kind of an acquisition.
Oh, wow.
Oh, wow.
Essence on that.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Run.
Well, yeah, that's what I should have done.
Yeah.
I should have done. I didn't do that. So we did that. We bailed the guy out, and we didn't do our due diligence because he was at the 11th hour, and I should have walked away.
Yeah.
But the properties most of them were 30A properties, and he had some Destin properties as well.
Yeah.
And they were all houses.
Quality.
And so it was like the quality appeared to be there, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Smoke and mirrors.
So within 30 days after the acquisition, I discovered it was a gigantic mistake.
Yeah.
Made the best out of it, but frankly, I mean, it was a loser. It was a loser. So it was, don't rush the process.
Right.
Not-
Yeah.
I don't-
yeah, that's good
I-
advice for sure.
I don't care what the need is. Don't rush the process.
Yeah. Yeah.
The other acquisition that we did that was problematic. Actually, it was during the pandemic. Great move there. But it was the same thing.
Yeah.
The guy was he was up against the wall. He'd been dipping into the escrow funds to
Mm.
operate the business.
Oh yeah.
And that's where the problem is
Yeah.
typically in our
Yeah.
business,
Yeah.
is not having the financial discipline.
Yeah.
And so that one wasn't, I mean, that one actually is going to be a great acquisition. It's a great acquisition for us, but there were more issues with the owners with
Yeah,
that
I'm
one,
Yeah.
than
Well, from a trust standpoint, right? I mean, in any acquisition, when you first get in charge of the company, I mean, you've got to be front and center to make sure those homeowners know who you are and
Oh, yeah.
feel assured that you're going to step in and know
Yeah.
what to do and take care of them. And if you're taking over after they've been in an unsettling situation with the previous company, it
yeah,
makes it-
Yeah.
my foot's, I got one foot in the hole.
Yeah,
I'm
exactly.
digging my way out of it.
yeah,
And that's just not, that's just, and that's, that's one of those, I look in the mirror and I go, stupid,
Yeah.
and it's just
But I bet you definitely learn from it though, and that's interesting.
Right, yeah, it's a learning.
painful and expensive lessons. Oh, yes, yes. Ones I will take to my grave. You bet.
Yeah. I've got a question for you.
Sure.
Vacation rentals are often described as the Wild West, right? And would you say that we're more like the Wild West now or when you started in 2008? Because I think you really could probably argue either way, but I'm curious which
Oh,
Wild West do you think was wilder?
I think when we started, it was wilder.
Yeah.
I think we're growing up.
The
I mean,
tame
I think we're growing up.
West.
It's, look at, by the way, revenue management. You mentioned revenue management earlier.
Yeah.
I mean, we use a revenue management company,
Yeah.
Beyond Pricing,
Yeah.
or Beyond as they're known today.
Yeah.
We'll send them a bill for this ad. No.
Yes, right, exactly. My team says to me, in the past when we were doing it manually, my owner services manager, my reservations manager, and I did pricing
Yeah.
manually, right?
Mhm.
Okay, and we were always a company that we tried to have more seasons built into our manual
Right.
pricing. So
Yeah.
we had like every 2 weeks was a season, so
Yep.
that you could go in and quickly. So you're loading 26 seasons, 300 properties,
Yeah.
and you'd start in August and you'd be done in November.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And by the time you were done, nobody was talking to anybody anymore. We were all
Yeah,
angry
exactly.
with each other, right?
Want to
You
get
know,
out of rate.
Yeah.
rate
So
land.
so when we started, when we started hearing and seeing about, what's this revenue management stuff?
Yeah.
And so my partner and I went to the data and rate management
Revenue management. Yeah.
revenue management
It's
conference in
Atlanta.
Atlanta, the first
Yeah.
one. Yep.
That's funny.
And it was out of there that we came out of there saying, oh man,
Yeah.
we got to do that. We
Leave
have
a lot of money on
got
the
to
table
do
on
this.
that.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Well, you're leaving money on the table. Plus plus you're not getting to market quickly enough because we're still working on our rates in November for
Yeah.
crying out loud for
Yeah.
the next year.
Mhm.
And it's so okay, we got spring break and the beginning of summer done, but it's the end of November and we're still working on the back half of peak season
Right.
and in the fall.
Yeah.
Well, that's nuts. I mean,
Yeah.
that's what we did every year, but
Yeah.
it really was. And when I look at our advanced bookings this year for
Yeah.
2022 versus 21 and 21 versus 20, I
Yeah.
mean, it's all revenue. It's all revenue management.
Yeah.
It's having the right tool. Now, shame on me. I was in the advertising agency business when American Airlines started revenue management in the airline industry.
Right.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I never thought about bringing that. I never myself thought about bringing that discipline to this business.
Yeah.
But it's now. This is if you're not doing it, you're not going to be in business in the long
Yeah.
run. You're just not,
We just
because
talked
your
to
competitors are doing it.
we just talked to an attractions operator yesterday from Trip Shock, Greg Fisher, who's also down in the
I know
Panhandle.
I know Greg.
Yeah. And we were talking about the evolution of revenue management from the airlines to the hotels to vacation rentals.
Yeah.
And now it's just beginning in tours and attractions. And it's so funny because it's like they're exactly at the point where vacation rentals were, 5-ish years ago.
Yeah.
And even as and less than that. I mean, everybody's kind of come on their own journey of revenue management, but I think everybody's doing at least a little bit of it now. Some are doing it full throttle, some, somewhere in the middle there, but it's a big change in an organization to do that. I remember when we first started going down that path, we'd have guests call that they'd say, well, when I called a couple of days ago, the price was X amount. And listening to our reservations, try to explain it. It's like the airlines, it's not always going to be the same price. And I'm like, that's
right.
not going to make the people happier. We've got to figure out a better way to.
Well, no, but that's reality. I mean, it's the
supply and
reality of supply and demand. That's what it is.
Yeah.
Now, I'm going to tell that we're talking about all the forward thinking stuff. I'm going to tell you a story. I'm not going to tell you who, and I'm not going to tell you where.
Okay.
A couple of weeks ago, I was down along the Gulf Coast of Florida, down further south from where we are, and talking to a rental management company that was looking to be acquired. Two things about that. One is, and this is something to think about. I think there are people my age or younger, who are actually starting to look at getting out of the business, right?
Mhm.
They started the company, they've got 50 properties, 100 properties, 150, and they're getting tired.
Yeah.
And so they're looking. And so I think in the next 4 or 5 years, you're going to see a number of companies who get acquired by other companies.
Absolutely.
A new crop of them. Yeah.
Yep. Anyway, so I went down, I met with the principals in this company, and I said, and I wanted to learn about their business and talk about it. Okay. I said, what software do you use?
Mhm.
We don't use software. What?
Oh,
You don't use
50
software?
properties.
Red flag.
75
No wonder they're
properties-
tired.
75 properties. Well, how do you keep
Oh,
track of
wow.
reservations? One of the principals pulls out, have you seen those accounting journals? The
Oh
big
yeah,
ones?
a big ledger.
Yep.
Oh
how-
my
Could you imagine?
Wow.
I'd shoot myself.
Can
I would
you
shoot
imagine?
myself.
In today's day and age. I mean,
Yeah.
that's back in the day, yes, and that's how
Yeah.
everybody did it. But I haven't heard a company that
Yeah.
big doing it that way.
That's crazy. It's just crazy.
The
Yeah.
first hotel that I ever worked at, it was a Ramada, and we had the cards.
Oh
that you-
yeah.
You
Yeah.
had the cards to say like what the status was. And
Yeah.
I can't remember. I think it was somebody I know in the industry, and I'm trying to remember who exactly it was talking about. And they were from Myrtle Beach. How they had their board reservations was basically sticky notes. And their CEO had
Yeah.
come in one time and leaned against the board and walked
Oh.
away. And the sticky notes
On his back. On his back.
Oh,
Nice.
no.
Nice.
yeah. So it's
That's
just
funny.
it's astounding to me the people that are that archaic this far
Oh,
into
yeah.
the game.
That's
But
crazy, isn't it?
there's
Yeah.
there's still
Well,
people like that.
That's what I said to the principals when I met with them. I said, I understand why you're tired. I get
Right.
it.
Yeah.
I get it. Yeah, I get it. I said, if I had to do
Really
this,
easy.
I wouldn't be in this business.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Crazy.
here's one last kind of industry specific question. Then Annie's going to get into our next segment here. But do you see yourself expanding into other destinations?
We're now on Anna Marie Island now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So short answer
Okay,
is yeah.
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 Okay.
Yeah.
I think my business partner has he has probably bigger eyes than I have, in that he says, well, we ought to be looking in the mountains, and we ought to be what about some ski thing? Why don't we look at the ski thing?
Yeah.
Which by the way, I talked to a guy who's a beach guy he had a ski operation as well in Colorado. He said, don't do it. It's a
really
bad idea.
hard.
It's
really
a bad
hard.
idea.
Mm.
Yeah. So the short answer is, I think to me, Florida. Now you're in Myrtle Beach, so you may see it differently. And I'm familiar with your, I know your
Yeah,
destination.
yeah.
I've been there plenty.
Yeah.
I think for me, I think Florida is just is just a tremendous, there's a tremendous opportunity here.
Yeah.
More people are discovering what we have here. And believe it or not, as developed as the Panhandle of Florida is,
There's still so
it
much.
is
Yeah.
still being discovered.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Absolutely amazing. So I think I actually had I traded an email back and forth this morning with the CEO of the channel management company that we use. And I said to him, I said, my business partner keeps asking me what I think 2022 is going to be like. And I keep telling him, I think 2022 is going to be at least as good as it was 2021.
Yeah, I think so too.
And I said, here's why. Number one, the airline industry is in chaos.
Mhm.
Okay. People don't want to get on airplanes now, even with prices being as cheap as they are.
Yeah.
My operations manager at Anna Maria Island took her daughters to a concert in Dallas because teenage daughter wanted to go see, I don't know who the talent was, but they wanted to go.
Right.
So she took them to Dallas. Her flight coming back got canceled. She ended up having to drive home.
Oh,
Wow.
to Anna Maria Island?
Wow.
Yes.
Oh
From
my God.
Dallas, from Dallas. Right.
Wow.
A 3-day drive. That's-
Exactly. So that's what now the reality probably doesn't fit the perception, but I believe the perception among the traveling public is flying is a nightmare. Number one. Number two, I think that the cruise industry is going to take 3 or 4 years at minimum to get halfway back to normal.
Yeah.
Okay. So what are people going to do about vacations? Well, if you pay any attention at all to advertising on social media, advertising on TV, whatever, who are you seeing? Airbnb, Vrbo.
Oh yeah, they're everywhere.
They're
Yeah.
building the
Yeah.
category for
Yeah.
us.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have to do it because they're
Right.
building the category for us.
Yeah.
So as mature as we may think this business, short-term rentals, vacation rentals, as we may think it isn't.
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
think there's a ways to go for it to hit the mature button.
Yeah.
And I also think that people in up in this part of the world, you have a lot of self-managers,
Mhm.
people who manage it. Yeah. That's getting tougher and tougher.
Yeah.
It's getting tougher and tougher.
Yeah.
So the part of the market that self-manages now, I think you're going to see they're going to start looking at vacation rental management companies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, that said, from a value proposition perspective, we as vacation rental managers need to figure out what the value proposition that's compelling for those self-managers. I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is, but it's something we should be thinking about. Yeah.
I think regulation and the professional side of the industry
Yeah.
really forcing the hand of the other side of the industry, these individuals to be
Yeah.
professional, because that's
Yeah.
that's what's dragging us into these regulation battles is
Sure.
the individual guys. It's not the professionally managed guys. So,
Sure.
yeah.
Yep.
Well, Jim, so I think like the thing that's so cool is we could talk to you all day long. You've got so much. I mean, you and I get together for lunch and we have great
I'm just old and weathered. And,
I'll have to come down so I can join you for lunch.
do.
Oh,
Yeah.
you got it.
We can make it a madman lunch with
We
our
will.
team.
Oh God, no! I can't do that stuff anymore. The price is too much. The price is too high for me.
Oh
Yeah.
my gosh. So we like to wrap it up and just ask a couple of just frivolous questions.
Sure.
Frivolous.
I asked one yesterday and it fell flat, so I'm afraid to ask it again. But I know you got to have a story about a brush with fame.
Oh, Brush with Fame?
Yeah,
Okay. Do you know who McLean Stevenson is? Was?
I know the name.
Okay.
I don't.
Colonel Henry Blake from
Okay.
MASH.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Okay. If you know, okay. Colonel, he was before, if you watched MASH at all, he was the guy who ran the MASH unit and back in the day. Well, when I was the head of the advertising group for Piedmont Airlines,
Mhm.
we would film commercials. We would do a bank of commercials out in Los Angeles every year. And one year chose McLean Stevenson to be our spokesman. And
Okay.
so I got a chance to visit with him, and oddly, this is 6 degrees of separation. Oddly enough, he was from the Bloomington, Normal, Illinois area. Okay. I graduated from college at Illinois State, which is in Normal, Illinois. Well, my father-in-law ran a conference center on Lake Bloomington, which is where my wife and I lived when I was going to college. Well, a lot of the people who had lake homes around the lake knew McLean Stevenson, and I knew them, and he knew them. So it was brush with fame. Here's a guy who at the time was pretty famous, and we're talking about people that he grew up with in Bloomington, Normal, Illinois, and people that I knew. So yeah, it was really kind of cool.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. He was a very funny guy. He's passed. He's been past probably 10, 15 years now.
Yeah.
But he was very. If you ever go watch an early MASH
I
episode,
love that show.
I
Oh,
didn't
it was a great
recognize the
show.
name at first, but when you
Yeah,
said MASH, it
yeah,
connected.
but if you go watch the early shows, you'll see how funny he was. His comedic timing was really something. He was really cool, really cool.
Awesome.
So did that fall flat, or was that okay?
No, that was
that was
perfect.
good.
That was perfect.
Yeah.
That was perfect. So the other thing that I will, and this isn't really a question as much as it's putting you on the spot, when you are ready to go public with your software, will you come back and Annie?
Oh, sure. I'd love to talk to you about it. Oh, of course. That's like now that depends on how many followers you get, of
Well,
course.
we're working on it.
Oh, tons.
No.
You gotta help us out.
Yeah, any time. In fact, as you're doing these things, if you moving from talking to different people to talking about topics and subjects.
Yeah.
I'm happy to come back and have those chats. And I know you both, but I know Annie more because
And yet you came anyway.
yeah, that's right. And yet I showed up. Yeah, how about that? So yeah, I'd love to do that. Yeah, I think these kind of things, I think what you're doing is going to help our industry become a better industry. So I appreciate what you do.
Thank you so much.
We appreciate that very much. And I think I agree with you. I think we've gotten so many great stories from people so far that we're starting to see those common threads between the people that we talk to that are all these incredible leaders, that we probably will move into having some episodes that are more topic based, that we might have a few guests on that'll speak on a different topic.
Yeah.
And you'll definitely be one of them. And there's a bunch of different categories we could put you into of topics.
Yeah.
But well, we appreciate you being here so much, Jim. And you are definitely one of the true vacation rental entrepreneurial evangelists, and you're a motivation and an inspiration to a lot of people out there. So
well, thank you.
Yeah. Love what you're doing, and keep it up. And we will look forward to talking to you again soon.
Great. Same here. You guys have a great Thanksgiving.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jim.
Bye-bye.